let's now discuss in greater detail Youth Month and youth entrepreneurship in South Africa and what youth are doing to empower himself. Entrepreneurially speaking, we're now joined by Asanda Luwaca, the Executive Chairperson of the National Youth Development Agency via Zoom. Asanda, very good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us and a warm welcome to Prime News on 3.
Good evening, Espiwe, and thank you for affording us this opportunity, and good evening to your viewers tonight.
Indeed, it's an absolute pleasure. It's a very, very important subject, not only because it's a Youth Month, but it's a conversation that should be held on a daily basis, even beyond Youth Month. Now, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor has stated that, has conducted a study and revealed that South Africa being a powerhouse on the continent, but youth entrepreneurship on the continent is very low. So as an agency that seeks to, that focuses on youth entrepreneurs who are intentional and promising and currently at a new stage of development, what is it that you've diagnosed? I mean, what came out of your diagnosis of why youth entrepreneurship here in South Africa is very low?
Thank you very much for that question. And I think, perhaps linked to, the low levels of entrepreneurial activity should be linked to this idea of how do we get to a point where, one, where we are positioned as the agency, we are able to create that enabling environment so that youth-owned enterprises are able to flourish, right? So you know that the entrepreneurial space is a complex environment, one, but also linked to that, there are the stringent requirements and barriers to success that make it virtually impossible for even a young startup to flourish. So at the level of the agency, where we are positioned is to ensure that we're able to assist young people that are in the business of youth enterprises, so that we're able to get to a point where we are able to cut down, on the red tapes and also cut down on this, barriers for their success. And we offer a range of, your financial and non-financial support in that regard.
Well, you just mentioned cutting out the red tapes and the obstacles and the barriers to youth entrepreneurship. And I suppose it's one of the deterrents, or if not the biggest deterrent for youth to embark on businesses, because having an idea is one thing, but implementing that idea is something totally different. And whenever they have a brilliant idea, then they come across such obstacles as access to finance, as the lack of capacity, because first and foremost, you have to have that capacity to conduct that business. So, so many questions have been asked about the role of the NYDA and just how useful the NYDA is to the youth in terms of helping the youth overcome these obstacles I've just mentioned. Yeah.
No, definitely. So we would have, I think what's important to highlight is the fact that we are alive to, not just some of the perceptions that currently exist, but also the lived experiences of young people insofar as, their limitations in accessing, the various products and services that we offer. But, I want to, just reaffirm to not just young people particularly, but society at large, that at the level of the agency, we would have ensured that we declared this year, the year of customer service at the NYDA, and what that speaks to is how do we get to a point where we are able to provide quality services to young people. And also linked to that will be ensuring that where a young person has a particular idea, but however they're unable to access the markets for one or the other reason, that we're able to offer that necessary support. So the support that we give to young people is on a needs basis. So for instance, if a young person doesn't necessarily need financial assistance, however, they would like to be mentored, we've got mentorship programs, we've got grant vouchers that we produce to young people or make available to young people. We've got business management training. So we understand that young people enter into the space at different levels, and as best as possible, we are able to then accommodate them at their various level or point of entries.
Well, for those young people who might be at wit's end, not knowing what to do next with their business ideas and not really privy into what the NYDA really does, so how would you define the funding model of the NYDA, especially to younger people? Is it perhaps a microfinance grant provision system or an interest loan structure?
Yeah, so we would have, historically, the NYDA would have given loans to particular small and medium enterprises. But over the years, the loan model has been done away with. And currently what we are assisting insofar as the financial element or the financial support is the necessary seed funding for those particular businesses. And the funding is in the form of grant vouchers. So it's not necessarily monies that would go directly into the accounts of the various beneficiaries. But however, if a young person comes to us and says, look, they want to establish a particular business and they need assistance with equipment, and they've identified, the relevant service providers, as well as the relevant documentation and quotations. So at the level of the NYDA, we would then ensure that those monies and those funds would be paid into those service providers. So as insofar as the funding model is concerned, we would have done away with the loan model approach and would have evolved into a grant voucher type of an arrangement.
Okay. All right, Asanda, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.